Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Ollie, what have you got for us today?
Well, lots going on today, Tanvi. It's 11:30 a.m. in London, 12:30 p.m. across Central Europe. And coming up in the next half an hour, Russia slams the US over its airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, primaries in the US state of Nevada, and the latest on the health of Britain's King Charles. First, the headlines.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken visits Cairo as part of his 5th trip to West Asia since the Israel-Hamas conflict. Talks to advance a Gaza truce and hostage deal discussed with President al-Sisi. Russia accuses Washington of sowing chaos in the West Asia at the UNSC, calls their strikes on Houthi targets in Syria and Iraq an attempt to influence the US elections. Goa hosts the India Energy Week 2024. Prime Minister Modi says India to witness an investment of $67 billion in the energy sector over the next 6 years. World leaders wish King Charles speedy recovery after announcement of his cancer diagnosis. Londoners hope for royal reconciliation as Prince Harry heads back to see him. As the Israel-Hamas conflict continues, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently visiting Egypt's capital city, Cairo, where he met President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. This is Blinken's 5th trip to the region since the conflict began on October 7th last year. The top US diplomat met Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in Riyadh on Monday and discussed the ongoing conflict in the region. US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that Blinken and the Crown Prince discussed regional coordination to achieve an enduring end to the crisis. So as Blinken is visiting West Asia, the US military struck 2 Houthi drones in Yemen in a retaliatory move. Talking to their social media account on X, US Central Command said that the recent attack was done in self-defense. The US said that the move comes as the Houthi drones posed an imminent threat to the US Navy ships and merchant vessels in the region. Meanwhile, the Houthis also launched missiles at 2 vessels in the Red Sea, causing slight damage to a cargo ship off the coast of Yemen's Hodeidah. The group's military spokesman said it fired naval missiles at the morning tide and Star Nazia. No injuries were reported.
The naval forces of the Yemeni armed forces, and with the help of God, we have carried out 2 military operations in the Red Sea. The first targeted the American ship Star Nazia, while the other one targeted the British ship Morning Tide. The 2 ships were targeted using suitable naval missiles, and the strikes were direct and accurate.
Now, DD India's Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what more do we know about Blinken's meetings happening right now in Cairo?
Hello there, Tanvi. Well, look, it is just the latest leg of this crisis tour by the US Secretary of State. We know there's a lot of concern in Egypt right now over a potential expansion of Israel's military operation inside the Gaza Strip into that southern area of Rafah, which has been declared as a safe zone by the Israeli military. There's a lot of concern that if and when this happens, that the Palestinians that are sheltering down in this southern area, that many of those could be pushed over the border into Egypt. Now, Egypt is also saying that if there's any military presence, any build-up on the Egyptian border, that then this could very much so jeopardise the peace treaty that's a 4-decade-long peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. So certainly a lot of concern there, but we do know that these talks are almost wrapping up. He'll then head to Doha to meet with Qatari officials amid a lot of hope, optimism, let's say, in Washington, that Blinken may be able to find a breakthrough in these hostage negotiations, also to find a pause in fighting, which would get more aid into the Gaza Strip. But look, let me tell you, that same optimism certainly isn't being felt here in Israel. You just need to listen to what we've been hearing from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is firmly against a ceasefire. He is firmly against a lengthy pause in fighting. He has been continuing to say that Israel will continue its military operations inside the Gaza Strip until Israel's goals, and that is defeating Hamas, are completed. And look, it's also important to mention that these hostages, these 130 or so people being held in Gaza, many of them are soldiers. They are, of course, a bargaining chip for Hamas. So there's really no reason why Hamas would want to give up all of these soldiers right now. So certainly a lot of work cut out for the Secretary of State.
And tensions are continuing to spill over in the Red Sea. What more can you tell us?
They certainly are. Well, look, the Iran-backed Yemen-based group, the Houthis, they have come out to say that they've hit 2 ships just a matter of hours ago with naval missiles. They say one was a British ship, the other was a US ship. But look, according to naval centres, that one of these was the British ship, of course, and it was actually Barbados flagged. We do understand that this missile actually passed over the bridge. It smashed through a window of this ship. There were no injuries, minor damage occurring on this ship, with that vessel then continuing on its way. But look, this is certainly another thing that the Secretary of State has to deal with. He's trying to de-escalate tensions in the region, and these attacks are really becoming a daily occurrence now. The Houthis say they will continue these attacks until what they say is aggression on the Palestinian people inside the Gaza Strip stops. And look, it is important to mention here, Tanvi, that 15% of global shipping traffic actually passes through this very important Red Sea shipping channel, and companies are now deciding to take the longer way around, which of course is driving up prices for consumers.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for those updates. In the latest on the Israel-Hamas conflict, Israel continues to hold its military operations in Gaza. An IDF fighter jet targeted and eliminated a terrorist involved in the October 7th attacks. The IDF troops also discovered multiple weapons, explosive devices and ammunition in Khan Yunis. An enemy spotter who had concealed himself within a compound was also identified and neutralized. Now, at a meeting of the UN Security Council on Monday, Russia has accused Washington of carrying out strikes in Iraq and Syria in an attempt to influence election outcomes back home. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, over to you.
Thank you, Tanvi. And yes, Russia is claiming that US President Joe Biden carried out those strikes in Iraq and Syria as the presidential election campaign in his country is heating up, and not because, as Washington would insist, it was in retaliation for a deadly attack on US soldiers. At that UN Security Council meeting on the strikes, Russia's ambassador said that there was no justification for the American action.
Washington continues to sow chaos and destruction in West Asia, the biggest operation of the US in the region since 2003, presented by Joe Biden as an act of retaliation for an attack of the use of an unmanned aerial vehicle of unconfirmed origin on the American base that is illegally in Syria, has no justification. We see in these flex their muscles attempt, first of all, a desire to influence the domestic political landscape in America, a desire to somehow correct the disastrous image of the current American administration on the international arena as the presidential election campaign is heating up.
However, Deputy US Ambassador to the UN, Robert Wood, justified the strikes under Article 51 of the founding UN Charter, which covers the individual or collective right of states to self-defend against armed attack.
Let me be clear. The United States does not desire more conflict in a region when we are actively working to contain and de-escalate the conflict in Gaza. and we are not seeking a direct conflict with Iran. But we will continue to defend our personnel against unacceptable attacks.
The Iraqi and Syrian permanent representatives strongly condemned what they say is US infringement on their sovereign security. The US launched airstrikes in Iraq and Syria on Friday, targeting Iran-backed groups in response to the deadly attack on a US military base in Jordan. Now for updates on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and Russia's defense ministry claims to have shot down 7 Ukraine-launched drones over the southwestern region of Belgorod. This after the region's governor said the city of Gubkin was under drone attack. There were no casualties in Gubkin, but 4 houses were damaged by drone debris. And the White House says President Joe Biden would veto standalone House Republican legislation for an aid package to Israel. The US president has accused Republicans of a cynical political maneuver as the White House pushes for a broader measure to extend financial assistance to Ukraine and Israel and provide new funds for border security measures. The $118 billion spending measure would provide humanitarian assistance to civilians affected by global conflicts. Meanwhile, US President Joe Biden's hoping for another strong showing in the Nevada primary contest on Tuesday, following an overwhelming win in South Carolina. Republican voters in the state are also choosing their candidate this week, but it's causing some confusion, as DD India's Nick Harper reports.
The southwestern state of Nevada is the second US state to pick which Democrat they want leading the fight for the White House this November. Incumbent President Joe Biden faces no meaningful challenge, but turnout will again be watched closely as a sign for how much enthusiasm there is for the president. He's faced criticism in recent months about his age, now 81, and for his handling of the economy, immigration and conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East. All of that has meant low approval ratings that have dogged his campaign. But the first state primary vote on Saturday in South Carolina saw Biden capture more than 96% of the vote. His team are hoping for similar strong support in Nevada. However, he struggled to rally black and Hispanic communities there, the very voters who helped to get him elected back in 2020. Some are sceptical of the president's achievements during the last 3 years. That said, there's even less competition for Biden in this state contest. Democratic lawmaker Dean Phillips, who's challenging Biden, has been unable to get enough support to get on the ballot in Nevada. In South Carolina, less than 2% of voters picked him in Saturday's primary. Republicans in Nevada are also voting this week, but for the first time the state is holding 2 contests, a primary vote on Tuesday and a caucus vote on Thursday. And the candidates could choose only one contest to take part in, which means former President Donald Trump's name does not appear on Tuesday's ballot, but his challenger for the Republican nomination, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley's name does appear. And then in Thursday's caucus, Trump will be listed on the ballot papers, but Haley won't, leaving Republican voters scratching their heads and throwing up questions about how much the Republican results this week will really matter or even make sense. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Next to West Africa, and Senegal's parliament has voted to confirm a delay of the country's presidential elections to December. The country was initially expected to go to the polls on February the 25th, but President Macky Sall announced a delay at the weekend. Critics say this will put Senegal's democratic credentials to the test. DD India's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports from Accra.
Senegal's lawmakers met in Parliament on Monday to debate the bill proposed by President Macky Sall. The proposal was to postpone the country's elections later to be held in just about 3 weeks. It was a chaotic debate which led to opposition lawmakers being forcefully removed from the chambers when they tried to block the voting process. The debate concluded with the lawmakers agreeing to push the elections to December 15. President Macky Sall's tenure, which is to end in April, has also been extended until that election is held. While lawmakers debated the bill, opposition supporters gathered outside Parliament to protest. Security forces were seen using tear gas to disperse the crowds. Many protesters who took to the streets of the capital, Dakar, to burn tires to protest against the government's decision were arrested. The government also shut down mobile internet access during the demonstrations. 2 opposition candidates have now petitioned a local court challenging the election delay. Electoral tensions in Senegal have raised concerns about stability in West Africa. There's been at least 6 coups in the region within the last 3 years. But Senegal has long been considered one of the most stable democracies in that region. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, has appealed for calm and dialogue, even as the US and other Western nations have called for elections to be held as soon as possible. Nabil Ahmed Rufai in Accra, Ghana, reporting for DD India.
Here in the UK, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says King Charles's cancer was caught early. Buckingham Palace announced on Monday that the King is being treated for cancer. It was diagnosed during recent hospital treatment for an enlarged prostate. King Charles's younger son, Prince Harry, is due to arrive in London to see his father. They have had a strained relationship over the last couple of years. Heir to the throne, Prince William, is expected to step up and fulfil some of the monarch's public duties until the King recovers. And that's it from me here in London for today. Tanvi, back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Ollie, for those updates. Ollie Barrett joining us all from London. Meanwhile, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi conveyed his and people of India's wishes for the speedy recovery and good health to King Charles III in reply to a post by the royal family communicating the news of the King suffering from cancer. The Prime Minister posted on social media platform X, and I quote him here, "I join the people of India in wishing speedy recovery and good health to His Majesty King Charles III." Unquote. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. Pakistan headed for polls on Thursday amid an economic crisis, soaring inflation and a weak currency. An attempted terror attack reported outside a courthouse in Turkey that left 2 shooters killed in a gun battle and 6 people injured.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world, one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. India Energy Week 2024 kick-started in India's southwestern coastal state of Goa today. The event focuses on catalyzing India's energy transition goals. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us this report.
Goa came alive as Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated India Energy Week 2024. Prime Minister Modi welcomed attendees to the second edition of India Energy Week, emphasizing Goa's spirit of hospitality and natural beauty. Noting India's soaring GDP rate surpassing global estimates, he hailed India as the fastest growing economy globally with promising projections for the future.
भारत आज विश्व की सबसे तेज बढ़ती अर्थव्यवस्था है और हाल ही में IMF ने भी ये भविष्यवाणी की है कि हम ऐसे ही तेज गति से आगे बढ़ेंगे। आज पूरी दुनिया के एक्सपर्ट्स ये मान रहे हैं कि भारत जल्द ही विश्व की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनेगा।
Prime Minister Modi outlined the global support for India's biofuel initiatives, with 22 nations and 12 international organizations joining forces. Anticipating a doubling of energy demand by 2045, Prime Minister unveiled India's comprehensive plan to meet this surge while ensuring affordability and sustainability.
हम प्राइमरी एनर्जी मिक्स में नेचुरल गैस को 6% से बढ़ाकर 15% तक करने के लिए प्रयास कर रहे हैं। इसके लिए अगले 5-6 वर्षों में करीब $67 बिलियन का निवेश होने जा रहा है।
Prime Minister Modi also inaugurated ONGC Sea Survival Centre, which is designed to train 10 to 15,000 individuals annually. The facility utilizes simulated harsh weather conditions to enhance trainees' sea survival skills. Touching upon India's stride in the green hydrogen sector, PM highlighted the National Green Hydrogen Mission, which will pave the way for India to become a centre of hydrogen production and export.
India Energy Week 2024 signifies India's unwavering commitment to drive its energy transition agenda forward. With global collaboration and innovative initiatives, it sets the stage for a sustainable and a prosperous future. With camera person Ajit, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DD India from Goa.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of projects worth over $160 million in the public program in southwestern coastal state of Goa today, dedicating National Institute of Technology Goa's campus and National Institute of Water Sports. Prime Minister Modi said that these projects will boost the developmental process in the state.
गोवा के विकास के लिए 1300 करोड़ रुपए की योजनाओं का लोकार्पण और शिलान्यास हुआ है। शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य और पर्यटन से जुड़ी ये परियोजनाएं गोवा के विकास को और रफ्तार देगी। आज यहां नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी और नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ वाटर स्पोर्ट्स के कैंपस का उद्घाटन हुआ है। इससे यहां पढ़ने और पढ़ाने वालों की सुविधा और बढ़ेगी।
The Nepali parliamentary delegation's official visit to India concluded on Tuesday. The 8-member delegation was led by Nepalese parliamentarian Raj Kishore Yadav. During their visit, the Nepali parliamentarians met Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and India's Minister for External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar. The discussions covered a wide range of topics aimed at fostering closer ties between the two nations. The delegation also met Minister of State for Tourism Shripad Nayak and discussed issues related to tourism cooperation between both the countries. The Parliamentary Committee from Nepal also visited Goa's iconic Ogada Fort and witnessed the digitization of Goa's heritage at the fort complex. Staying in the region. As election looms in Pakistan, locals say wayward inflation is making it difficult to survive in the country. The first general election since 2018 will take place amid an economic crisis, soaring inflation and a weak currency, while navigating a recovery path under a $3 billion International Monetary Fund bailout. The hovering inflation has led local store owners to raise prices 4 times in the past 2 years to compensate for soaring costs.
When the products are in sale, middle class then purchase the products. instead of at initial cost. Relating to the food or cost of the food is definitely increased in Pakistan.
And now we take a look at what else is happening around the world. In Turkey, an attempted terror attack was reported on Tuesday. 2 shooters injured 6 people, including 3 police officers, in a shooting outside an Istanbul courthouse. The shooters, identified as a man and a woman, opened fire on a police checkpoint near the central courthouse. Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya confirmed on social media platform X that the 2 assailants involved were killed in the ensuing gunfight. Devastating forest fires in Chile's Valparaiso region have led to the loss of at least 123 lives as of Tuesday. The fires have destroyed over 11,000 hectares of land and damaged thousands of homes. Chile has declared 2 days of national mourning and implemented a state of emergency, deploying military assistance. And highways were frozen and houses collapsed in central China as freezing rain, snow and ice have impeded the Spring Festival travel surge across the country. At least 2 people have died in snow-related accidents. Hello Kitty, Japan's famed iconic cat, is celebrating her 50th anniversary this year. And to mark this milestone, London's Somerset House has dedicated an exhibition called Cute to the cult cartoon character. The exhibition features a dedicated Hello Kitty plushy space with disco ball and displays of Hello Kitty products and memorabilia through the years. That's it in this edition of DD India Global. Do join us for another edition of the show at 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram at DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar. We just don't bring you the news.